It was interesting that I saw the information about Night Teeth today, right before I came over here to record this video, because it actually, like, I have no idea if it's going to be like directly sort of related at all, but it reminded me of the book that I read for this month.
Oh, really?
Yes. Like, the idea of these young women who are vampires, who are kind of using the fact that they are young, pretty women and they seem non-threatening to hunt, is something that is prominent in the book I read this month.
Okay.
The book I read this month is called The Lost Girls, obviously a play on The Lost Boys. The author is Sonia Hartl, I think is what you say. I hope. Sorry if that's not right. I loved this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Technically, it's young adult, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's not a bad thing.
I mean, the line is so blurry these days.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what makes this young adult? Just because they're young adults, sure, but they're vampires also. So, like, they're actually, like, 100. So, like, they're not young adults. So, the premise of The Lost Girls is really a fresh take on the sort of, like, general vampire trope. It centers around a character named Holly, who was turned into a vampire in 1987 when she was 16 years old. So, like, and it's so much fun because some of the little details about being a vampire that this author has added in, like the fact that nothing about you changes and you can't change anything about you. So, like, she crimped her hair the morning that she got turned into a vampire, and so, like, for the past 30 some odd years she's just had crimped hair, like it's 1987, and she, like, can't change it.
I love that they tied in that
right
concept.
Yeah, like, if she tries to straighten her hair, it just immediately goes right back.
All right, Interview with the Vampire.
Right. clearly a tie into that. I mean, there's a lot of references to sort of, like, the classic vampire. At one point they're literally watching Dusk to Dawn.
Yes.
But yeah, so it centers on her, and she was turned into a vampire by a male vampire in 1987, who, of course, like, promised her eternal love, and now it's 30 years later and he has dumped her.
Oh.
And what she comes to find out is that she's not the only woman that he's done this to.
Oh.
And also, and this is just, I think that this was just a device she had to put in for the plot to work. But the idea is that they are forever tethered to the vampire that made them. So, like, any vampire, whoever made them a vampire, they are tethered to that person. And say, like, if the vampire that made you moves to a different town, you are, like, irresistibly drawn to go to that town. Like, it's physically painful for them to not be in, like, you know, however many mile radius of.
Interesting.
Right. So that takes her to, like, where, and of course this guy is, like, this, you know, narcissistic, abusive asshole, and probably was before he was a vampire too.
I mean.
And so he likes to just, like, drop everything and move on a whim, and he doesn't think about the fact that he's trailing all of these people behind him.
Right. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Because, like, I know that usually, like, of course, like, the whole, like, that is a very common vampire lore that, like, your maker.
Right, your maker is very important to.
You don't have to be right by that, though.
Right, yeah, like, and I think, again, this was, like, in order for her to meet the other, like, exes, I think that's, to get the plot to work, like, sometimes you have to put in, like, a bit of, like, magic or something just to make your plot work. Because, like, it'd be like, it's a pretty big coincidence that all of these people ended up in the same town. It's like, well, no, actually, they're, like, compelled to be in the same place.
Right.
Right. So she meets these other women, one of whom is, like, 100 years old, and actually knew, the male vampire's name is Elton, actually knew Elton when he was alive. Her name is Ida, and then he was with her for around 30 years and then dumped her and made another vampire named Rose in 1954, and then was with her for right around 30 years and then dumped her and made Holly, and now he's dumped Holly, and they're like, he's gonna make another girl.
Yeah.
Right? And they do, and they have found the girl that he's targeting, right? Because of course, since they were all teenagers when they were turned, they still look like teenagers, which actually is a problem because, you know, Holly sort of talks about how like it seems like being 16 forever would be great, but it's actually like terrible because she can't get a decent job.
Right, because she's 16.
Right, because she's 16.
Right.
So, like, she has to pretend to be a 16-year-old. She has to pretend to be a teenager, even though she's, like, what would she be? She was 16 in 87. 50-ish, right? Almost 50?
Yeah.
So she never has any money, and, like, he didn't either. So they're just sort of, like, they live this kind of, you know, transient lifestyle, right? Which is hard, and it's interesting because, like, in a lot of vampire literature, the vampires are rich. So, and it's like, well, how'd they get that way? If they weren't already rich, like, how do you get rich?
Right.
Right. So that was an interesting take on it, too. And, like, the idea that you sort of freeze entirely, right? So, like, she also still had all of the, like, insecurities and kind of, like, mood swings and the, like, the feelings of a teenager, even though she had been around for a long time.
Right.
Which is interesting, and also something that I feel like is kind of a reference to Interview with the Vampire.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, the character of Claudia and how she was sort of stuck in this weird, like, eternal adolescence. And so she acted with the impulsivity of an adolescent, but it had much greater consequences because she was a vampire, right? So yeah, it's a really interesting concept, and it is also queer. Like, it is an LGBT book, and I won't give away exact. Although I think it gives it away in the description of the book on Amazon, so I guess it's not really a spoiler. So Holly starts to fall in love with the girl that Elton is targeting to be the next vampire.
Okay. Ooh.
So, right, and my favorite line. My favorite line of the book is like. Something along the lines of, you know, most vampires give up heterosexuality along with exercising for fun, and then she lists a couple of other things, you know, and everything else that mortals pretend to like. So she's bi, right? She's bisexual. Like, she was very much in love with this male vampire, and now that, you know, he's out of the way, but she's always been bi. And now she's falling for the girl that he's targeting, which both, like, raises the stakes for her and is also very complicated because their entire mission is to keep this girl from being turned into a vampire. But at the same time, Holly knows that she can't really be with her if she's not a vampire.
Right.
Because she'll die. Right? Like, you know, eventually people would be like, why is this grown woman with a 16-year-old girl? Like, it would be bad.
Yeah, it get a little problematic.
Yeah. So they discover that the only way to break this sort of tether to this man is that they have to kill him. And killing a vampire in this story is much harder than killing a vampire in most vampire literature. Right? Okay. And they kind of, it's kind of funny because they kind of speak to how ridiculous the idea that, like, it's so easy to kill the undead. Right. Right? It's like, we're already dead. We're like magic. Why would there be, like, all of these built-in fail-safes for you? Like, no, it's, like, basically impossible. Even starving them, which I do think is present in other vampire literature, that, like, starving them doesn't kill them, but it does drive them mad.
Yes. Right. Yep. Good.
But yeah, there's just, it's fun, it's fast-paced, it's not very long, it's a very quick read, right? Because it's YA, so I mean, sometimes they tend to be a little shorter, but it's really fun, and it's about, like, found family and the kind of found, like, there's a lot of sort of underlying allegory to the experience of queerness in the context of them being vampires. And, like, 3 of the 4 main characters, at least, are, like, openly LGBT.
Oh, okay.
Right. And they sort of form this found family. And so there's the idea of this sort of, when you take into the account like how old they were when they were turned, right? The fact that they have to live this transient lifestyle, the fact that they don't have the kind of material comforts that maybe they would have otherwise. Like all of these things, it's like it feels very much like they're using vampirism as sort of an allegory to the experience of queerness in general, especially queerness back when they became vampires.
Right.
So yeah, but it's a really fun book, and there's lots of like cute little references to sort of vampire tropes or like playing with vampire tropes. And you know, if you're like me, I mean, one of my favorite books in the world is Dracula, so like I pretty much devour any vampire literature or movies or anything, except Twilight. But
that's in its own genre. I need to read every single book that you recommend because I know they're really great books. I'm just really bad at like sitting down and reading a book.
I mean, I had a hard time deciding on a book for this video. I started reading like 3 or 4 different books, and then I was like, I don't know. And like this one, I finally, you know, settled on this one.
Yeah.
So what is the video game that you're going to talk about this month?
So I am going to be talking about a bit bigger of a game this month. So, I mean, like, I know I started off with like a small indie game and then moved on to a slightly bigger game with it being Friday the 13th. And this month I'm talking about Dead by Daylight.
Which is a huge game.
Yes. It turned into like a pretty average, like it was a pretty popular game when it first came out, and it just got massive. And they have been growing this game. Like, I have a lot to talk about this game.
That's okay.
Because I have a lot of,
Go for it.
I got a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions.
It's going to be a 2-hour video. We're on it. We're here.
Here we are.
Stick with us. It's worth it. Promise.
So Dead by Daylight came out in 2017.
Wow,
in
that
June.
long?
It's been, so they just celebrated their 5-year anniversary.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me because like games so this is my feeling that I have. So games, it's so common for them to be like, all right, we're going to come out with part 2. We're going to come out with a like, it would have been so easy for them to be like Dead by Daylight 2. Dead by Daylight 1, the original one, it's gone. You're playing the second one now. No. This company, Behavior Interactive, is the one that created it, and they stuck with this game and have just been growing it consistently. In fact, they just released a new character, and I am so excited that they did it. So, but I'll get to that in a minute.
Right. Maybe you should explain the
game itself first.
The DLC and the DLC situation where they
Yes.
keep bringing in
more
other
and more
IP. Yeah.
So the game itself, it's like it's described as like an asymmetrical horror game. So it consists of a total of 5 people that are playing. So you have your 4 people that are playing as survivors, and then you have your 1 killer, right?
Right. Yeah.
So in the killer, it's the killer's goal to kill you and send you to this realm called the Entity, is what it's called in the game.
Okay.
Right. So and their goal is to do that by hanging you on hooks and killing you that way.
Oh.
Yes. It's quite a violent game, and I love everything about it.
So that's the original.
Yes.
Or is it like
That's the game concept has not changed.
okay.
Yeah, the game concept has been the same the whole time. They've added maps, they've added characters.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really what they've added to it. And this game at its core is very simple. And as I believe I mentioned in the last video, Friday the 13th is very similar to this game. There's more characters there's more people that are playing and around in Friday the 13th, but I think it would hinder the game if there was more characters in Dead by Daylight. It'd be almost too easy to win.
True.
Where it being a 1 versus 4, the power of the killer versus the abilities that the survivors have, it's very equal considering the amount of people that are playing.
So the 4 that are playing as survivors, does that become like a cooperative type?
It can be. So
It depends on who's playing.
Yes. So there's kind of 2 ways to play the game. So you can play it with random people. which is the easiest way to do it because
because it's hard to get 5 adults who are all free at the same time.
Yes.
It's hard to get 5 adult friends who are all free at the same time in the same same thing. Who all have like access to the game.
I stopped mid-sentence to let Rocky out. That's cool. I know, buddy. But yeah, it is very hard to get up to 5 friends that want to play all together. Mm-hmm. If you're on Twitch, it can be easy to make some friends and start playing together. Mm-hmm. But I think it is kind of the most fun to play with your friends, but it does make it a little bit harder for the killer. So the other big difference between Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th is you can't talk to each other in Dead by Daylight. Like there's no actual communication at all. Unless you're playing with your friends, in which case you can talk to each other via like Discord. And be like,
right,
hey,
if you
come
have
here.
if you have like a different way to
Right. Which is a really fun way to play it, I will say. So, which I play both versions of it. I have a good time either which way. I actually, which is really funny, I have yet to really play as a killer.
Really?
I consistently am a survivor. I don't know why. I was kind of the same way with Friday the 13th. I like to play more of the survivors than like the camp counselors, more so than Jason. Mm-hmm. It was just more fun for me to run than it was to chase. So
yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I think that's the dynamic that you're used to in a video game, right? Where like you are trying to survive something that's trying to kill you.
Exactly.
And like, yes, you might kill that thing in the process.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like you are not the antagonist.
Exactly.
Which is like something that is interesting about these games is that it does put you in those shoes.
Mm-hmm. And you have the option.
Right.
Do you want to be the antagonist or the protagonist?
I wonder, he's like, get that one friend who always chooses to be the killer, and you're like, are you okay?
Mm-hmm. Like, all right.
I mean, I guess it's a healthy way to get up.
And I know I do have friends that really love playing as the killer.
Yeah, no, I was just kidding. I wouldn't actually be worried about somebody.
Katie's worried about you, just so you know. We have concerns. But what's great about this game is while the general concept of the game, the general gameplay is very simplistic, there's not only a massive what's the word? There's a lot of strategy to how you actually play, where you have different abilities you can allow yourself to attire to yourself. So you can have the ability to allow yourself to run faster for a certain amount of time. Or you can add more, there's lock boxes that consist of items that are on the maps, and you can add extra lock boxes or they're crates.
So there's like a tiny bit of like an RPG element to it.
Yes.
Okay.
So and then you have your items that you can add to it. So you can have a flashlight, you can have a med kit, you can have those are usually the main two that I have, so I'm forgetting the other one that you can have. Oh, and you can have a toolbox. Hello. So you can I'll get to the core of the game. So 4 people versus 1 person, you're trying to escape. The way that you do escape is that there are generators that are scattered throughout the map. You have to turn on so many of them. If I'm not mistaken, it's 5. Okay. And once you turn on these 5 generators, it'll power up there are 2 random doors, these exit gates that you have to open up to get out.
Oh, okay.
There is one other way to escape, which I will get to.
Okay.
So if you have the toolbox, you'll generally be able to repair the generators faster.
Right.
If you have the med kit, you'll be able to heal other players that have been attacked by the killer. If you have the flashlight, that's your defense, because you can blind the killer.
I see.
Which is a fun side note. You can also blind other players. I've done so by accident.
You're like, oops, sorry.
My bad. But yeah, so it's a good way, so you can pick the best route of what item you want to use based on the strategy that you choose. You can only have 1, and then you can have 2 extra item tie-ons with it. Okay. That'll enhance that. And then there's another sacrifice that you can provide that'll enhance the game in some other way too. It can, it's generally something that'll either send you to a specific map, it will enhance the amount of blood points, which is what you earn in each round. You can multiply that. a bunch of other things you can add to it. It's interesting, this concept, like this game has expanded, and I had no idea before I started playing it that there was so much to this.
Right.
And there's even lore to this game. Like there is a story for each and every player.
Oh wow.
Each and every character that's in this game, there is a backstory to them and how they got into the game.
Interesting.
So because essentially each person was taken somehow and put into this universe per se. And they're trapped there. And that's why you are eternally either escaping or dying and then coming back again to do it all over.
Oh, that sounds like hell.
Uh-huh.
Like actual hell.
Literally hell. You are going through the layers nonstop.
Interesting.
So the other big thing that they've done since they've released the game is that they've been adding maps and killers.
Yes.
And characters you can play to the game.
Right.
And what I love is that they're from actual horror movies.
Right. This is the most exciting part of this game to me.
Right?
Is that like you can play as Michael Myers.
You can play as Freddy Krueger.
You can play as Freddy Krueger.
Ghostface from Scream.
Yeah.
You can play as the pig from Saw.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
You can play as the Demogorgon from Stranger Things.
Oh, cool.
Which I actually made sure... disappointing fact of this, little side note, is that they actually just removed that expansion, so you can no longer buy it.
Oh.
But if you have it, you still have it.
I see.
So I made
why they
sure...
removed it.
I'm not sure why they did. I don't know.
Some sort of, probably just a contract ran out or rights dispute or something.
Yeah. But you can still play as them in the game. Mm-hmm. So if you bought it, you own it.
Okay.
So I made sure I bought it, so I own it because I'm like, I want the Demogorgon, because it's you get the Demogorgon for the killer, and then you get Steve and the girl Nancy. You get Steve and Nancy as playable characters for survivors.
Nice.
So it's just really cool that they've added all of these things to it.
I do have one question about that.
Yes.
So this doesn't necessarily apply for like Michael Myers or the Demogorgon, but like the Freddy Krueger expansion.
Uh-huh.
Does Freddy talk?
Freddy, I believe, talks a little bit.
Okay. They've recorded a few lines where.
Yeah. Like he does make a little bit of noise. I can't remember exactly what he says, but what's fun is that depending on the killer, there are other aspects to the maps that change.
Right, I'm sure.
So, and one of my favorites actually is Freddy Krueger, because he can make you go insane and send you into a dream world.
Of course he can. Yeah.
Right?
That's his whole thing.
Exactly.
That's what he does.
So, sends you into a dream world, and then someone has to find one of the alarm clocks to pull everyone out of the dream.
Oh, to wake everybody up.
Yes.
That is cute. I like that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And then, of course, there's maps that you can play. So, like, there's they added Resident Evil. So you can
nice.
That was one of the latest expansions.
They added Resident Evil. Okay, so that's really interesting to me because Resident Evil is a video game.
Right, and they added characters from the video game to it. Right?
Huh.
So they added like the Resident Evil Police Department.
That's awesome.
Which is a really hard map to play because there's three stories, if I'm not mistaken, in that police department.
Is it Raccoon City? Is that Resident Evil?
Yes.
Okay.
What did I say?
No, you didn't say the name of the town.
Did I say Resident Evil Police Department though? Did I say Raccoon City Police Department?
No, you said Resident Evil.
Okay.
But
Raccoon
the police
City
department from Resident Evil. I was just making sure that I, in my head, had the right.
Yes, it is Raccoon City, and Raccoon City Police Department is one of the maps that you can play.
Okay.
You can play on the street where Halloween took place.
Ah.
Mm-hmm. So, and then there's like for Saw, there's the meat factory that was from Saw 3.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, what's funny about them adding Saw and Saw elements is that like the original concept feels like Saw.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Right, like you're stuck in some sort of building, somebody's keeping you there, they're trying to kill you. If you can get out, you're out. They'll let you leave. So, yeah, it's interesting that Saw seems like a natural addition because it's basically, it's a very similar concept.
Right. And then they even added like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So you can play as Leatherface.
I mean, I was thinking of when you mentioned that he has to hang you on hooks,
Right.
I was like, oh, well, they have Leatherface, right? Because he does
Yes.
that anyway.
Yeah, he was one of the first expansions that they've added to
I
it
mean,
for
it's a natural.
like a mainstream.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a natural.
And then the latest expansion, which just came out in the last month, was Hellraiser. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Are there Cenobites?
Uh-huh. There's the Chatterer.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then I believe it's yes. I believe that there's 3 skins. I don't remember what the third one is. There's the Chatterer, of course, there's Pinhead, and then there's a third one. And I can't remember which one it is. And I believe they're adding to it too. I think they're adding more Cenobites to it.
So like, if you decide to play as the killer, you sort of pick whether you're going to be like Pinhead or a Chatterer kind of thing.
Yeah, like you can change the skin so you can play whichever one it is.
Right.
But
I mean, that makes sense because there's more than one monster in that movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a really exciting addition to this.
That is very exciting.
Yeah. So really cool that they keep growing this game. Like I said earlier, they just had their 5th anniversary. And that was actually a really cool time for everyone to play. So right around then, they actually made the game free to play for like a month.
Oh, really?
So anyone could play it. You didn't have to pay for the game. You could just go in and play it. And then they added like a bunch of extra things. You can get a bunch of extra blood points. You can buy like extra features and like keep growing your characters. And then there's a portion of the game called the Entity, where it's a lot of games will have this, but it's like you're trying to reach a specific goal. Like you're supposed to like kill 3 characters using a specific weapon.
Oh, right.
Or escape 3 times using this specific character, kind of a thing.
Yeah, like the little like, you know, side quest trophy getters.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And then you can right, exactly. And then it'll unlock like different masks and different clothing items, and you have charms that you can use that'll hangs on the side of the hooks.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really cool ones. There's a pride flag.
Awesome.
That's really great. That was like, yes, obviously. Yeah.
Can
that was
have
free.
A pride
too.
flag as somebody hangs you on a meat hook.
I mean, but they're still proud.
No, it's fine. Everything's fine.
So,
no, it is really great. It feels like a game that they genuinely care about their players, and like that they know that the people who play this game are fans of a very specific genre of things, and they're we're just going to give you like all of the Easter eggs. Like, we just want you to be excited about it all the time.
Well, and realistically, it's a very smart route to go, because like all of these extra characters you do have to pay for.
Oh yeah, well yeah, it's like the expansion packs with The Sims.
Exactly. It's literally that.
Yeah.
It's that exact concept. So you would buy the Hellraiser portion, and it would and now not all of them come like, so all of the expansions are a different price depending on what they come with.
Right.
Because not all of them come with maps. Not all of them come with survivors. Not all of them come with killers.
So you're saying it's like whether it's a full expansion in The Sims or a stuff pack or
Exactly. Like for example, Evil Dead. Evil Dead's tied in, but there's no killer. It was just Ash.
I mean, that makes sense, because like, how would you really?
Right.
Because the killer is an invisible entity that possesses all of the characters.
Exactly.
All of that would be, I mean, this would be extremely difficult to pull off in terms of like the game mechanics. And like, I'm sure that it would be far too expensive. It would be amazing if they did Evil Dead where there was an invisible entity that was jumping from player to player. So like, you would start out as a survivor and then suddenly you become the killer.
Right.
Like, that would be really cool.
All right, Behavior Interactive, if you're listening to this, we have a concept.
We're writing a letter.
Yeah. Which, side note, I did forget to mention, because I know that Behavior Interactive is the main company that's developing the game, but it did start off, Starbreeze Studios was also a big portion of it. So I just wanted to mention both of them. But this game is on like every platform you can imagine. They started off on PC. They expanded to PS4 and Xbox 360. They have since moved to Xbox One. Xbox One, yes. Sorry. It was like, wait, no.
Like, what year did it come out? Yeah, I know.
Like, yeah, so it started off with PC, and then PS4, Xbox One. They've recently, of course, released versions of it for the PS5 and for the Xbox.
Like remastered type versions?
The Xbox Series X /X or /S. They released a version of it for the Switch.
Oh, yeah?
There's a mobile version.
Oh, I didn't know there was a mobile version.
Mm-hmm. There's a mobile version of it.
So here's my question, and maybe you don't have the answer to this, but like, let's say somebody is playing on a PC and somebody's playing on a PS4.
They are cross-platform.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That's unusual. Cool.
Yeah, that's smart, because that way you're making sure that all of the people that are playing it are able to play together, so you're not sitting there waiting 20 minutes to get into a lobby because you're playing on a device like, for example, like the Switch, that not as many
really
people
how many people are playing it on the Switch, right? Yeah.
Like solid port option, but like it's
well, yeah, because some people only have a Switch,
right.
And another thing is the Switch is significantly less expensive than the PS4. Well, the PS4, PS5, like any of them.
Yeah.
Any of the others. So like you are, by porting it to the Switch, even if they had to modify it a little bit, you are opening it up to an entire like class of gamer that maybe like can't have a PS5. Right? But they can get a Switch and now they can play this game and be playing with the entire community.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean they're doing this smart, and they're doing it in a way that is both smart and good for the players and good for the game.
Exactly.
And I think that's a hard balance to strike, because it's not like a lot of time these big AAA games come out and like they feel unfinished until the DLC happens. But in this case, it's like the DLC really is bonus stuff. You don't need it.
Right. Yeah, the game was definitely playable when it first came out.
Right.
So they're just like, we're just gonna keep adding to this just to well, and you're adding characters, you're making it more you're making people want to continuously play it. You're getting more money because you're getting all these DLCs. Right. There's like not exaggerating, like a good, if I'm not mistaken, like 25 DLCs for this game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you listed off the top of your head like 10.
Right. And those are just characters from horror movies. They also added their own characters that they created themselves. Yeah. So so you have all of these options to keep opening up the world to more characters, and then you can buy like clothing items for your characters, and like people can invest a whole lot of money into this game. And I know a bunch of people that they own all the expansions, they own all the clothing packs. I mean, they at least all the DLC ones. There's clothing that you can buy in the game that personally I think is very expensive. I'm like, I'm not spending $5 on one outfit for someone for a game.
In a game? No.
It's not happening. But hey, that's me and that's my money. I'm not going to judge anyone.
Exactly. Like, no, if you have the money and that's what you want to spend your money on, like, go for it.
Well, and I mean
I buy. It is no less ridiculous than spending $20 on a Funko Pop, which or $40.
Right. The guilt written all over your face. So
it was cigarette smoking man. Okay. It was important. I needed him.
So there's and I think the clothing packs are really for like the truly hardcore gamers that play this game every single day.
Right.
And like especially the people that are streaming it, because this is one of the most one of the most heavily streamed games on Twitch.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So there are people who are sort of like trying to make money off of it. So like it makes sense that you'd be investing in it.
So it's a really, really great game that they're consistently building on and coming out with all new things all the time. I mean, and they're coming out with expansions really frequently. Like the Resident Evil one came out just earlier this year, and they already released another one with Hellraiser.
Right.
So like they're really making sure that they're taking the time and they're really like the people that are working in the studio, they're pouring their love into this game.
Right.
And it's very, very like prevalent, visible. Like you can see that they really truly love what they're making.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend it. Play it on any platform you want to. I own 2 copies of it because I have it on PS4 and I have it for PC.
It's the least surprising thing I've heard all day.
I mean, well, what's funny too, so this is coming,
But I own 4 copies of Dracula.
So here we are.
Again, not judging.
I own 4 copies of Donnie Darko, so here we are.
Hi, Ian.
Hello. Later this month, folks. So I am also someone who came into this game very late. I actually got the game for PS4 for free. Mm-hmm. It was... This story does not matter at all. I got it for my birthday, but it was like when GameStop was doing like a buy 3 get 2 free.
Oh yeah, right.
So that was one of the free options that I got. So I got this game for free initially, and then I was like, well, I'm not playing it on the PS4, but I really want to do PC gaming, so I got into it on the PC, and I love it. Love it. So definitely recommend if you want to play with me too. Hi. Let me know.
How can they find you?
So I am on Twitch, not very frequently, but I'm trying to get a little bit better at it. But my username is A Mild Disclosure. Mm-hmm. Don't judge me for it. It's been around for forever. But that is also my name on. That's also my name on Steam, and that is also my name on the game itself. So, yeah.
Cool.
So look me up, add me on. Let's play.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool game. It's not very often. It's not very often that a mainstream game can have, that's not like Minecraft, can have,
Right.
a 5th anniversary where people are still really excited about it, and
Mm-hmm.
people are still, and they're like continuously like growing the game and enhancing the game. Like that's just
Exactly.
not something that they do very often.
Yeah.
Because you're right. They tend to just like, okay, we're going to sequels, and like this one, we're done with it, and on to the
Right.
sequel. And it's, video games is weird in that like the sequels are almost always better
Right.
because of like better technology, but in
Exactly.
here they like just keep sort of adapting the original concept to that rather than making you buy a whole new game.
Right.
Yeah, nice.
Which, slight tie-in with the last one, that's likely what would have happened with Friday the 13th. Which,
Right.
I have other news for the month.
Go for it. Say it right now.
The fight with Friday the 13th is over.
Really?
They've decided. He is, and now I'm forgetting who's fighting who and whatnot.
It was Cunningham and Miller, wasn't it?
Miller, yes. Yes, so Miller has the rights now.
Miller has the rights now.
Yes.
Okay.
Or is retaining rights to the franchise.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So at least it's done.
Right. So maybe we can start.
It's very sad that it took this long because I know that like Gun Media would have loved to continue making Friday the 13th, and who knows, I know that they did have like other concepts for other expansions in mind, so they may still have those and
Right.
may add them to the game.
Right. They might fire it up again, but
Right.
they've moved on. They've moved on to other
Yeah,
projects.
they're making a new game now. So we'll see what that is. I'm very excited about that too because
Well, aren't they making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
of what I know of, yes. That's what I've heard so far, but I don't know if it's officially announced or not yet.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see, and maybe we'll see some new Friday the 13th movies, maybe a new rehashing of a franchise.
I mean, why not? Keep them coming.
Keep them coming.
All right. So is that it? Should we move on to
Yeah.
the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're new to these videos, we actually have a podcast that releases every Friday night. It's called Friday Night Frights. So we are now going to tell you what's going on this month on the podcast. There's a lot of very exciting things. We started the first episode of this podcast came out on October 23rd, 2020.
Yeah, it did.
So we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of our podcast, which seems unbelievable.
Right.
And I don't know, I kind of want to do something special for that, but I haven't decided what yet.
Yeah, we got to do something.
Right. But we've started doing movie reviews. We've started, doing more mini-sodes of movie reviews. And I think with all the, I'm not gonna say how many or exactly when they might come out as little like bonus episodes, but I'm sure that you can expect to see a few of those given everything that's coming out this month. Like there's just so much. So this past Friday on October 1st, we were supposed to release The Evil Dead. We did have some technical difficulties, and we might end up having to re-record the whole thing, unfortunately. Like the recording itself kind of got corrupted, which is an unfortunate reality of the business. Sometimes that happens. It sucks when it does. I can tell you it's very frustrating, but we are still going to bring you our sort of breakdown of The Evil Dead.
Yes.
So you can look for that sometime this month. But we're just not sure when. On October 8th, we're talking about The Lost Boys. Obviously, part of the reason I chose The Lost Girls is because it's obviously a reference to The Lost Boys, and we can certainly talk about queerness in The Lost Boys.
Right.
Which was, much more of a subtext than it is in this book, but, it was the 80s instead of 2021. On October 15th, we're going to be talking about the 2018 Halloween movie, because that is the day that Halloween Kills comes out. So we are tying that in, since Halloween Kills is a direct sequel to Halloween from 2018. On the 22nd, which will technically be our 1-year anniversary show, because obviously the 23rd is a Saturday this year. We are doing Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting, and I can't believe it took us this long to get to it. I was like, wait, we haven't done Rocky Horror.
Right. Like, what's taking us so
What
long?
is wrong with us? Yeah. So that's very excited about that one.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely very excited. It's been a little bit since I've watched it, too, so I don't know why. I watch it generally at least once a year.
Yeah, I usually watch it every Halloween season.
Yeah. Haven't watched it in like at least a year.
Yeah. Still haven't gone to a midnight show of it. That's like on my bucket list, is to do a midnight show of Rocky Horror.
That is something that we need to do. And so, because have you seen it live as well? Like performed live?
No.
So we need to do both. Because I've seen it where there was a live cast like playing along with the movie. And then I've also seen like the Rocky Horror Show. Like the musical, the actual musical version.
Right. It was a musical first, like a stage musical. And then they made the movie. I believe I have seen like advertisements for what you're talking about. They call it like a shadow cast.
That's what it is. Yes, the shadow cast.
Where like they have the movie playing in the background, but then there's like somebody acting it out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would also be cool. And then just the just the sort of like cultural touchstone of going to a midnight show and like throwing things at the screen and stuff like that. And then why don't you tell them what we're doing on the 29th?
Because it's my favorite. Okay, so the 29th.
Show the mirror.
Yes, we are doing Donnie Darko. I have the numbers tattooed onto my arm. It's my favorite movie that I've ever seen. So we are doing the 2001 Richard Kelly classic. Donnie Darko.
Cannot tell you the last time I watched Donnie Darko.
It's actually been about a month for me.
Which is a long time.
Yeah. I watch it regularly.
For me, it's been like years, but yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see it again, and I'm excited to sort of watch it. I'm excited to watch it as an adult, as weird as that sounds. Like, because when it came out, I was their age.
Yeah. Right.
So
you were teenager.
Right, I was a teenager.
You was teenager.
I was teenager.
She was teenager. So definitely very, very excited. And of course we're watching it then because, I mean, if you know the movie, the date
literally takes place on that day.
Yep.
So gotta do it.
So yeah, that's gonna be our month of October. So yeah, this month is going to be a full, where we've been doing like every other episode has been a mini-sode and then a full episode.
Yes.
This month is all full episodes.
All full episodes. Maybe a few bonus episodes. We're going to try to give you, as much content as we can, given that, our powers are at their highest.
Right.
Because it's October.
Spooker.
And we will also be releasing a video on Halloween.
Yes.
Like our monthly Sunday video. Even though it's not technically November, we decided we're gonna do it on Halloween because of course we are.
Because it's Halloween.
How could we not? Yeah.
Hello.
Ween. So if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, tell us what you think in the comments, and subscribe so that you can just get the video straight to you every month when we release it.
Yeah.
Like we said, we also have a podcast that releases every Friday night. It's called Friday Night Frights. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We would love it if you would like, or if you would rate. No, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. It would be great if you would rate, review, and subscribe. You can follow us on Spotify. We also have all the social media. We have an Instagram called Effin' Frights Podcast. We have a Twitter called Effin' Frights Pod. We have a Facebook. If you just search Friday Night Frights Podcast, you'll find us there. We have a website, effinfrightspodcast.com. You can contact us directly if you would like to scream at us at scream@effinfrightspodcast.com. And we have a Patreon, which we call our Fright Club. If you wanted to throw some support our way, we would be eternally grateful. So, gays and ghouls, join us on Friday night. You'll be in for a fright.
But until then, sleep tight.